Hello, Laurie. It's really good to have you with us. Thank you for joining us today. For everybody listening, Laurie is an expert on LinkedIn. And before anybody panics, especially those who I know I've worked with and have said you need to sort out your LinkedIn, Laurie's going to talk us through some of those ideas and why it's important for leaders and how you can leverage it, and maybe also how you can do it in a way that feels natural and authentic to you. But before we get into all of that, Laurie, would you introduce yourself and pronounce your second name for us, and give us a sense of kind of your background before we kick off?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks so much for having me. So my name's Laurie Macpherson and I am a career mentor, career wing woman for women, usually, who are already in fairly senior roles, but who are looking for something else. They're looking for more purpose, for more flexibility, for more money, for the next step up, or for something that just, feels like them. And as a result of doing that, I learned to use LinkedIn to promote my business, and I've learned how to use it to help other business owners. And I now also help other business owners to use it to market and leverage their network, because it's tough out there right now. The job market is tough. And if people are finding they're just applying sort of into the wind, it's really hard. Whereas if they can actually use their network and use people they already know and reach out to people, it's working so much better. So whether you're an employee or an employer or a business owner, LinkedIn is the place to be. And I will bang that drum until the day I die, because I hear all the time, oh yeah, but it's this and it's that. And actually it's just because the people don't know how to use it. So that's what I'm happy to talk about today.
Brilliant. And I invited you because one of the key things that I find is when we talk about networking or we talk about LinkedIn, often leaders, men and women, kind of cringe at that because for them it's something else. They see it as beyond kind of building their brand. But will you talk to me a little bit about why it's important for your LinkedIn to be effective as a business owner or a leader? And I also want to say, even aspiring leaders who are wanting to be influential, why should they put the effort and time into LinkedIn? Because it is another piece of work to do.
Absolutely. So it's all about being seen. And I'll say to my client, like, who do you want to see and be seen by? Now, mostly they're like, oh, I don't want to see and be seen by anyone, thanks. I'll just rather, just want to do my job and go home. And I get that. But what I mean by that is, who would you want to, if you're a leader, who do you want to come and work for you? Who do you want to think, oh, do you know, I would absolutely love to work there. I love their values. I love what they talk about. I love the way they work. If you're a business owner, who do you want to work with you and buy from you? You attract or repel your people by what you put out on LinkedIn. And I get it, that the reason why people don't want to use it is they think it's braggy or spammy or it's full of Derek from accounts posting, I'm delighted to announce, which nobody apart from Derek, God bless him, really cares about. And it's all a bit dry and it's all a bit grey and it's all a bit drab. And it can be if you're following the wrong people. And know that between 1 and 5%, only between 1 and 5% of users ever post. So 95 of the folk that you see don't actually post anything ever. They just lurk in the background. But people are watching. And it's good to know that those people can find you, can find your personal brand in a very noisy world. You can actually go onto LinkedIn and be yourself. And thanks to COVID and the last couple of years, you don't have to be dull, grey, corporate or professional. You can be you. And someone said to me a few weeks ago when I was doing this, I'm sick of hearing, be your quirky self. I'm not quirky. I'm just me. And I said, okay, that's fine. But you told me at the start of the session that you've got a dog, that you live in such a place, which is beautiful. You also have a business in another place. Why did you choose that? I'm really interested already, and not in this session because we're doing the work, but I really want to know why you have a holiday home here and what your dog's all about. And people want to get to know people and human beings, and we buy from and we trust and we like other humans, and we want to know their stories. That's part of being a human, is that we want to fit people into boxes, not in a bad way. Are they my kind of human or are they someone else's kind of human? Both are fine. Is that someone I want to work with or for? I always say your next work bestie is on LinkedIn. You could be sitting next to them, but they won't know you exist. Your amazing ideal manager, your next amazing hire could be out there, but they don't know you exist. And that's on you.
I think that's I love so much about what you said. I was thinking about a situation where I obviously work with a lot of leaders privately in coaching. And that means I can never say to anyone that they're my client and that they're fabulous. I might be able to say, oh, I saw this post because they posted something. This person I think is really interesting. But it got me thinking about how many amazing people I'm working with who would be really aligned. But because our work is confidential, there is no way of me or them discovering each other. You know, I can't do that for them. And I spoke to a leader last week who I said, well, actually, if you put that post on LinkedIn, I can share it.
Yeah.
And I know that there are people in my network who will align with what you said, but I can't tag them and I wouldn't, you know, there's clear boundaries. And they went, oh, I never thought about the fact that I could put that and other people could be the compass towards that thing. And it was a really subtle moment where I kind of had the realization I have so many connections with people who can help each other, but because of our way of meeting, I need to find a way that normalizes them crossing paths. And the only way that can happen in my world really is on LinkedIn, where they're a friend and I'm a friend, and they say something, I like it, reshare it, people within my network. But then I thought that's actually true for lots of people. There's lots of people we can't overtly say, go and talk to Laurie or go and talk to whoever, but we can demonstrate that Laurie knows this thing, Sheila knows this thing, this person has a strength in that. And there's something about that less braggy side of LinkedIn that actually gives you a medium to share what you care about, to speak about things that matter to you but are work related or have some connection to who you are within work, in a way that the likes of Facebook, Twitter, Instagram or X and the other platforms don't do, because they have different tones, but also because people don't go on those platforms for the same reason they go on LinkedIn. If I am looking for an accountant, I reach out to friends and ask. And if nobody has the name, I go to LinkedIn and I see who I'm already connected to and I go and check their posts. Do I like the stuff they've been posting about before I even decide whether I reach out to them or not? Who are they connected to that I know? Do I like those people? So it becomes, even if it's an informal connection where we haven't met in person, it becomes a really important kind of distinguisher, doesn't it, around what you're posting, what you're sharing. Even if you're not posting, what are you sharing? I talk to a lot of my clients about that. Are you demonstrating that you care about sustainability or something so that others can link on? So tell me about the kind of ways that you have found working on their LinkedIn and supporting them to utilize it and leverage it. What kind of results or impacts they have, not necessarily results just in cold numbers, but what type of impact does that have on the people you work with? What kind of outcomes are they experiencing?
Yeah, great question. So quite often before they come to me, they're not really doing anything. They have a profile. That's what I get told all the time. I have a LinkedIn. We can all have a LinkedIn, but they don't use it. They don't use it to drive clients to them. So what I get them to do is to go and find people in their sector who they don't already know. So here's the first thing. You don't have to have met them. I haven't met all nearly 10,000 of my connections, and that's fine. You know, it's about building a network of people who want to see and hear from me, and I want to see and hear from them. So go and find people who you want to see and be seen by. So if you're an HR director, go and connect with some HR business partners for talking's sake. If that might be something you're looking to hire in the future, or, you know, you want to think about pipeline or anything like that, go and find them now. Don't wait till you need someone. Go and find them now and see what they talk about so that you can see whether they're your kind of person or not. And you said about sort of results and impact. When before they come to me, people tend not to use it. They've got a woolly headline that doesn't help them. They've got something like open to opportunities or, you know, business development manager. That's fine. But you've got 220 characters there. So business development manager for whom? You know, is it charities? Is it construction companies? I don't know because you haven't told me. Who do you like working for? Who do you like working with? And how do you do it? So, for example, mine is Career Wing Women, helping smart women to find roles that they love at the salary they deserve. And then I've got some fence posts to see how I do some of these things like courses or, you know, one-to-one or interview prep, things like that. So what do you do? Who do you do it for? And how do you do it is a good thing so that people can find you. And what not to do is ///. So I'm a this. You know, one of my lovely ladies on a call was like, I'm a unicorn maverick. I was like, that's fantastic. No one's searching for that. No one. So tell us what you're actually doing. That people, you know, that people can actually find you. So if I want an accountant, I'm not looking for a unicorn maverick. I want someone that's, you know, can do my books. Thanks very much. So being findable. So the first thing I do is I get them found, and then they say, oh, but people are starting to find me, and then the next thing they'll do is sort of start connecting and engaging in posts, and that's when they see that really moves the needle. People are starting to connect back, people are starting to talk back to me, people are starting to, you build a relationship, and it's not something, it's not take to give or anything like that. It's literally follow for follow. It's literally just starting to build a relationship with other humans that you like. I've got loads of folk on LinkedIn that I speak to daily. I've never met them. I probably never will meet them. But I like what they say. I like the cut of their jib, and I agree. And often I support their posts and they support mine. As I say, not in some spammy engagement board. I don't mean that. But I mean that when I see them in my feed, I go, oh, brilliant. Samantha Harmon, for example, is a fantastic stylist who talks all about, I have nothing to wear, has nothing to do with clothes. It's about your confidence and what you put out in the world. She's fabulous. Every single day when I see her post, I love it, you know, so I make a point of comment and I'll message her and I'll tell her particularly brilliant post today. Who doesn't love that? So therefore, if I'm in her, you know, and not from I don't do it to sell. I do it because I like what she's saying. But if she's get someone to come into her world who says, right, you're right, I do need better clothes. Now I've got the better clothes, I need a promotion. She's obviously going to automatically think of me, because it's just about staying top of mind with people. So the results I get are getting people to be top of mind, getting people to reach out to you because they see your work, they see what you do. People send me messages saying, oh, I'm looking for an interior designer actually, and I really liked your post. Because actually from going from being invisible, you become visible, which means someone can see you and go, actually, I need one of them. And it's important to say it's not an overnight thing. It's like going to the gym. You cannot go once and expect a full six pack. You have to keep doing the work, you know. So that's what I say to my clients all the time. If you can go in and chip away a couple of times a week, add your connections who you want to see and be seen by, do some engaging on some posts that you're interested in, and in time, write your own posts. It will help you. I can't guarantee that what those opportunities will be that will come, but things will happen. I get asked to podcast, speak in my group, come to my network and run my, you know, because I'm visible. And you can create that for yourself. And I know that there's a thing, oh, I don't really want to be visible, but how else do you stand out in a sea of other things and people and a lot of noise? You know, if you are a leader with specific views, you want those to stand out above the noise. So the results I get is getting my people seen and getting them opportunities. And what those opportunities are varies widely, depending on one, what they're looking for, two, where they're at in their careers. But it can be that they'll message me and say, oh, I've got some help to run this conference that I'm running next week, because someone's approached me about it. I've got someone sent me a new job offer because I posted clearly that I was looking for a job. I've just had someone ping me a perfect job. These are the sorts of things that you can expect dropping into your inbox. And in among it, there'll be some dross, putting that out there. There'll be men in the American oil and gas industry who want to marry me. I have no idea why. There'll be all of that. That's okay. We ignore, we delete. But in amongst that, opportunities, I get about 40% to 50% of my business cold from LinkedIn, who see my posts, approach me, ask to work with me, and become my clients. So I know it works, and I know it works for my job seekers as well.
And I think it's really interesting because most people think about LinkedIn at the job seeker stage, whereas a lot of the senior leaders I'm working with, they don't really need a new job, generally speaking. But what they are missing, and this is for anyone listening who's been in industry a particular length of time or in their own organization, they miss industry insights because they may be a senior leader within their organization, but as soon as they leave their organization, they lose that brand, and they may not have built a kind of thought leadership brand within industry. And I think LinkedIn is really powerful for that. So I suppose what I'm saying is at every point of the professional journey, for anyone in a senior role, LinkedIn may serve a different thing, but LinkedIn is serving it. That we are sure of.
100%. And it's not, you know, some people will say, but I'm not looking for a job. You know, I had a friend who I did a challenge in January this year. It was fab. Had 40 people came in and learned how to use LinkedIn over 25 days. And a couple of them were pals, and one was looking for work and one wasn't. And she's like, I'm coming anyway because I want to do it, but I don't know why, because I'm not looking for a job. But actually, you know, she's started to talk much more about what she does, and she's in academia. So it's like, but if you post about your topic, someone from another university could want to do joint funding bid, could want you to interview you about it. It's all for your visibility. She will rise up the ranks. She will be, you know, professor in time. So I talked to her about, who are you talking to? Probably you 5 years ago. probably you when you were sitting stressed out doing your PhD. You're talking to you so that you 5 years ago knows there's light at the end of the tunnel, knows that this person knows what they're talking about in their subject area. Other people can see that you know what you're doing. And they can then go, oh, do you know, who is it that does that really? Oh, yeah, it's that woman I saw on LinkedIn. You know, we all do this. If someone says something to you, you go, oh, I saw this amazing thing on Instagram. It's hang on a minute. And you dig through, don't you? So it's the same for her. I know someone who does that. They're interested in this. So it's collaboration. It's sitting on panels. It's, you know, and you might think, oh, I don't want to do that. I'm not. That's okay. You don't have to do things that don't suit you. But what I'm saying is you will not be offered opportunities if you don't put yourself up and out. You'll just be stuck in your own little bubble. Whereas for someone like her who wasn't looking for a new role, she just started posting about what she knows, what she does, where she's been conferences wise. And I've seen her followers go up. I've seen, as I say, she's a pal in real life. I've seen people saying, have you heard about this? Have you seen this? Can we talk about this? And when she goes for her next role, whenever that might be, and it might be 2 years, 5 years, never, she's got a bit of leverage because look at all the connections I've got in this field. Because I've done the work. And the worst time to do the work on LinkedIn is when you need to.
That is exactly the point. Because at that point, you're in a need rather than in a kind of nurturing. I actually have a really good story. I'll keep it brief. I stalked an organization for about 10 years on LinkedIn, 10, and stalked. I don't mean I broke any laws because people have thought that that's what I implied, but I just kind of watched them. I liked what they were talking about. I knew something about them. And then I found that they shared a particular form of intervention that I didn't realize was a form. So I then kind of started looking at it, and then I worked for someone and they mentioned that kind of method. And so then I did my master's in that method because I thought it was interesting. The company's still in the background. I'm still stalking them. God love them, but we have no connection. I write about my thesis in my description. The company lands in Ireland. I'd say 2 years, less than 2 years after my master's. They are looking for practitioners in Ireland with this method. There's a limited amount of us. Because I had originally found it with them, then gone on and engaged in my master's, written it, they contacted me. Great. I now work with them. It has been worth years of work. They have supplied me with years of work. I do great work for them. They bring great work to me. Brilliant. Step further, one of the founders of the method found me. We found each other through LinkedIn because of this connection.
Yep.
I then got to sit on a 12-month seminar with the two founders of this method looking at research. There was only 8 of us on the thing from all over the world. Only 8 of us got it. This all came because I stalked a company I liked the vibe of about 10 years ago. It evolved. I found a method I liked. I got curious. I added it to my LinkedIn. If I didn't put my master's thesis comment on my LinkedIn, no, the actual company wouldn't have found me when they landed in Ireland. And then later I became someone who ended up doing work with the founders of this method. That is only because LinkedIn let me stalk them. And then I put the words in my description. I have had 3 or 4 years worth of meaningful work from them. I've got to meet and work with the most senior leaders. And I get to do a method that I like that not lots of people know or do. Which I wouldn't have just found in any random group of people. I just can't think of a more impactful way. I now support them. They support me. I have a connection to the original founders. I've had a connection with other people within the field. I wouldn't have found that just by, being the way I was being, without using LinkedIn.
Yeah, you put out what you want people to see and know about you, and I don't mean that in a woo-woo way. I mean it in a really practical way, that you tell them what you've done. I've had people say to me, I vividly remember one lady who was looking for a new job, and she said, oh, I can't possibly tell them things about me, and it's a professional platform. This was right at the start, it's probably 2020, so things have moved on. She said, I can't possibly tell them any of that sort of stuff, it's no. And I said to her, okay, how did you find me? And she went, oh, I saw you on LinkedIn, so I know that you used to be a holiday rep, and I know that you did this, I know you've worked in retail for years. And then the penny drops, and she went, I could do that for about me too, couldn't I? It's like, yeah. So that people who say to me, oh yeah, I love it, I've got a travel connection, I've got a retail connection. And as I say, it attracts or repels. If someone doesn't want to work with someone who's got that, that's absolutely fine. But those who do, those who say, I know you'll get me, will find me because I talk openly about that. It's not a secret, mention what's brought me to where I'm at. So those people who can find you and talk about it, and you can create a bit of a personal brand. Now, I know it sounds a bit naff, but genuinely, you choose what you put out there. So if you want people to know, I look out certain visual clues, and I don't even know I don't even see the name. But for example, there's this stylist that I follow, always wears really bright clothes. I can always tell it's her post. There's some that are always in the gym, and I can always tell it's them. There's one that plays with Lego. He's a recruiter, but he drinks lots of whiskey. These are their visual clues. So when I'm scrolling, as we all do, these visual clues are like, scroll stop, let's have a look at what he's saying today, because he always says really smart stuff, and we agree with each other, not for the sake of LinkedIn, but because he posts good stuff. So there's certain people who've really got that right, but all you do is it's repetition. Coca-Cola don't consistently change the colour and the brand. They just do the same thing all the time so that folk recognise them. And you can create that too, where, people see me, they know that there'll be leopard print somewhere about. There's actually not today. There'll be leopard print somewhere about. There's not, a Prosecco's never far from my hand. I got a call at 5:10 from someone I worked for last night, and his last words were, "I'll let you go because I know it's after 5 and we want to have a Prosecco." There's one right beside me. And I've created that because people know, that's what you do. And as I say, they either like that or don't, but you create what things are part of your identity. And whether that's research into, music and older people, or whether that's red lipstick and Prosecco, that's all fine. So that when people see it, I've got certain folk, I see them, as I say, in the gym, and I always think, I wonder how she's getting on in her new job. Oh, she's doing this now. I'm dead proud of her. I've never met the girl, maybe never will, but it's absolutely brilliant. And you can create that about yourself. And if you're sitting here thinking, I don't have anything exciting, or I'm going to challenge you and say that everyone has something, everyone has a story to tell. You don't think it's exciting because you do it day to day. But for me, for example, all the really creative people on LinkedIn who bake cakes and make jewellery, I can't do any of that. So I'm always interested in how they do it. There's lots of things I can't or don't or won't do. So if someone else does, I think, that's really interesting. I'm going to look at that because it's interesting. So whether people are like us or not like us, there's nothing. Your life is interesting. You as a human being are interesting because we are inherently interested in other humans. So I spoke to a lovely client last week, and it was about, the fact that it's to be Scottish Climate Week. And what do I say that doesn't sound really dry? And I was like, well, why do you want the planet to continue? You've got 2 beautiful kids. Yeah, you can cover their faces if you want. That's a different conversation. You could put, I want it to be a better place for these two. Amazing. That's how you draw people to you, by being human.
I really love that, because one of the things that I talk about with people a lot is that there's a difference between professionalism in terms of behavior, and the facade of professionalism, which is like a neutral idea of who we are. And that kind of neutrality actually kicks into loads of issues with inclusion and inclusive leadership and all of the things I stand for. But there's an additional layer, which is for us to build trust with people, it has to go beyond what we want them to know, if you know what I mean. Like, it has to go beyond, I want you to know I care about inclusive leadership. It has to be why I care about it, what I mean by it, how it affects me as a person,
what I do about
what
it,
I do when I'm not thinking about that thing. You know what I mean? So that people can connect beyond the topic. But I think what can happen is we can get lost in the topic or into, my job is just, and not realize actually we're in an industry. That industry has a bigger impact. We can have an influential role within that industry. We can attract and repel. And I love the repelling. There's lots of people I do not want to work with because I'm going to drive them around the bend. They'll drive me around the bend. We're not going to work together very well. But then there's lots of people that will be intrigued, but I have to give them something to hook onto, to feel connected to. So I have to talk about things I care about. So I have a couple of questions for you, Laurie. Like,
awesome.
You've kind of shared a bit. So I know that you have a course on LinkedIn. Will you tell a little bit about that to the listeners? And then I have a few additional questions for you.
Yeah, for sure. So the course came out of people just having a LinkedIn, and not using it to find opportunities. And as I say, what those opportunities are depends on where you're at and what you're looking for. But basically, whatever level you're at, you can use LinkedIn better. So I ran the challenge, and the idea was always I then used the material to create a course. So it's a self-study, 25-day, 25-step course where you go from, here's how to fix your URL and make sure it all looks okay. And I don't mean anything fancy, just, the basic setup to, by the end of the time, getting into a rhythm of connecting, engaging and posting with your people. And I'll tell you how to find those and who they are as well. So it talks you through all of that. It's called Next Level LinkedIn. It's £99, or you can pay in 2 installments. And yeah, I've got a business version and a employed version. They're the same thing. I just have different cover pages on them because it's the same thing.
That's really brilliant. So the first thing is the price is insanely good, because I know, like, my example of that very short story over a 3-year period, I suppose 10 years of following the company, but 3 years of how that's impacted me. It's actually fascinating. Like,
Yeah,
like that is very underpriced for the impact I know that using LinkedIn well has. And I think I do understand why you'd be targeting slightly differently, because people who are employed or in companies they do feel that it's a different place for them versus
yeah.
people who actually oversee their business and maybe are representing very directly what they sell. So I love that, and I love the fact that it's so well priced, which means even if somebody's in their career and they're in a lower kind of pay packet at the moment, or they're going through some difficulties, or they know they want a new job next year, please do not wait for next year to do this. Get it, like, strengthen it. Every day you put a little bit into it, you get a little bit out of it. So I have some questions for you. So in terms of our listeners, so think about the people who maybe need to do LinkedIn, avoiding LinkedIn, have a LinkedIn but don't use a LinkedIn. What kind of quote or do you kind of comes to mind that you think might be supportive or inspiring for those people to consider?
Okay, so it's not supportive at all, but it's definitely inspiring.
Go on.
And this is one I use for anything in my business. Now, nothing illegal or immoral or anything that doesn't sit well with my ethics, but my thing is, you don't have to like it, you just have to do it, right? You just have to do it.
Oh,
Because it
wow.
will make such a difference. Like, you can get 10 grand in your pay packet. You can get asked to sit on a panel. I put an ask out this year. Who can let me speak on their podcast? I think I've done about 9 so far. I ask constantly. I ask, boldly, and you can ask for whatever you like on there if you've got a good enough network. So I would say with LinkedIn, you don't have to feel joy and pleasure starting it off. You just have to do it. You just have to know that it's part of your development as a manager, as a leader, as someone who wants to be known in your sector. If you're not on it, you are just missing a massive trick. And what you said about not waiting till don't wait. Don't do the thing of one repost 1 year ago, nothing at all. Then, hello, I need a new job. Who are you speaking to? If you sit now and do 10 connections a day, 30 days, you can do it while you're waiting for the kettle to boil. In a month, you'll have 300 connections. When you need them, so whether that's I need an employee, I need to move, I need money, I need some sponsors for my event, I need speakers, they'll come up underneath you like a big old safety net and be there if you put the effort in first.
Yeah, I think that's fantastic. And I like the idea of, needing to do it as long as it's not immoral or illegal. I like that clarification. It doesn't sit wrong. The other thing I think about that in terms of, the kind of people who are nervous about doing that piece, one of the things I say is that even sometimes I will check if I'm partnering with somebody, if somebody moves position, I'll check their LinkedIn. Not necessarily to actually never read their profile. I actually don't care about their profile. I look at their activity because it
Yeah.
tells me about what motivates them. But the other thing I think is powerful was a couple of leaders recently I've worked with got like significant promotions, like they couldn't go any higher now. And I wasn't working with them on their promotions. Well, we were working with them on their leadership, which obviously lent to their promotions. But one of the things that I said to them once they got the promotion was you need to go and cull your LinkedIn straight away and check your activity. Because I'm telling you that everyone you're about to be announced to is about to go and
That's it.
check you. And the thing they'll check is LinkedIn, because it isn't your professional bio. It's the things you like. It's the subtle things you've been doing that you didn't necessarily curate. So when you've liked something, when you've reposted, it's that more informal interaction. And one of them was like, oh, wow, I never thought of that. Like I knew they'd see my professional profile because they're within academia or whatever. But actually, you're right. They went to their Twitter. And with everything going on with Twitter, I think it's becoming more and more evident it's not the place for academic engagement. I think LinkedIn is picking that up for us. But also they realize actually that's how people are going to assess them, not by the formulated, about me section. It's actually about their behavior on LinkedIn. And if they don't have behavior, that leaves people to make assumptions. And so, and that was only recently it became a really obvious thing. People Google you. when you're the new boss or when you're about to take up a really senior or global position. You are going to be Googled. LinkedIn has such a good relationship with Google that you can curate that, not necessarily by the about section, but also just by your engagement. So I love that idea. Just do it.
Just
Know that
doing
it will
it.
serve you, even if it's not right now. So one other thing, and this is kind of I love this question. What's your kind of pet peeve around, and I'm going to ask you specifically on LinkedIn because that's what you're talking about. If you were to have a pet peeve that you just go, oh, you throw your eyes up to heaven, or you kind of think, are you kidding me? What might that be?
So it's people who think that, so I said to someone not long ago, go on and engage in people's posts and, get a bit of rapport going. And she's looking to sell a course next year. And she's right, to start the engagement process now. So start engaging with people now. And she said, that feels really icky. Like I'm just trying to get them to see me so that they can buy from me in time. And I said, no, you only like and comment on things you want to, or things you think you can add value to. I'm not asking you to, I'm not going and adding chat on football accounts because I don't know anything about it. Or for example, anything to do with farming, so I don't know anything about it. I'll add where I can, or what's interesting or useful to me. My feed, and I hate the word curated because people overuse it. It's like bespoke, but you do curate. You do choose who you see. So I see people that I like to read their posts. If you don't want to read someone's post, get rid. There's no need to hang on to people from the dim and distant past. You don't need to worry about them. They're not coming after you. But if someone on there is bothering you with what they're posting, you don't like it, you don't have to see it. You don't have to keep them on there for any reason. You choose who you see. So my thing is, it's not about icky, spammy, like for like, follow for follow, like you do on Instagram. It's actual human connection and relationship. And then if I need something, so from a legal recruiter or a tech recruiter, say, I've built up enough warm reciprocity and engagement. If I've got a specific question, I have no hesitation in going and saying, got this guy, I think this, what do you think? And then I can go back to the client looking like the best person in the world and say, my amazing recruitment contact agrees with me, we need to do this. But I've not done the contact with the recruitment person because I want to tit for tat. I've done it because I genuinely agree. So it's about genuine engagement, genuine relationships. I go to some of the LinkedIn parties, of Lee Turner, who is the absolute LinkedIn queen, and people are amazing. I've just recorded a podcast today for one of her folk in her community because they're amazing and the conversations are amazing. The help and support is amazing if you get in and dig in. So it should feel authentic and natural, and it should be people you want to connect with. If someone is not someone is not what you want to connect with, if they're saying things you don't want, just don't do it. Don't put pressure, but you want to speak to who you want to speak to. The same as in real life. You choose at a party. I'm not going to go up to that really loud and annoying person. I'll stand next to this person. It's the same on LinkedIn.
I really love that because I think sometimes it's really fascinating to me. Networking, I don't like that anymore. I see that it's been set up quite transactionally and comes from a very old model of how we do things around here. I now use the word ecosystem, and that's actually how I see my LinkedIn. If
Yes.
I'm missing something, I go to my LinkedIn and I ask the question, but I also nurture my LinkedIn. So if there are people on it saying we're stuck with this, we don't know this, I might tag someone, I might reshare, I might copy and paste, I might bring it to the attention of someone that I can't tell on LinkedIn I'm doing, as in I can't disclose a client's name, but I would copy it and send it to the client for them to decide if they interact with it. And for me, that ecosystem approach and that way of thinking works. I nurture this space because I want to improve those I'm connected with and their experience and their understanding of my topic, but they nurture the space with me by letting me know what they're good at and their position on things. So I can also be like, that is not my position. I will be unfollowing. This is not where I don't want to be connected here, but equally this is where I want to be connected. And I think we have to be careful, just like in real life, sometimes there's this reaction to networking, like, well, what do you do? What can you do for me? Here's a card versus nice to meet you. Are we aligned?
Yeah.
How do we make sure that you win and I win, and not necessarily in the moment, but in general?
Yeah.
So I do think, and I think women are particularly good at this. I think lots of men do it well, but this idea of being in service to our communities, and our communities, that reciprocal nature isn't the same as tit for tat, which I think can be kind of a way some people have experienced both LinkedIn and in person, historically speaking. So on that, Laurie, I am going to pop all the links below so people can follow you, find your course, ask you questions if they have some. I'm probably going to invite you on again if you are open to that. But
Yes.
for today, I think we should close it there. Otherwise, myself and listeners will be listening all day. So thank you very much for coming. Can you just remind me where you're located?
Yeah, I'm in Glasgow.
You're in Glasgow, fab. And you work online, I imagine, if anyone wants to get in contact.
100%, all online. It's great.
Love it. Love it. Brilliant. Thanks a million. I really appreciate it.
Thank you so much.